Welcome to our channel, Behind My Story. Please like, share, and subscribe.
Hi, my name is Esmeralda, and I'm 21 years old. In my country, I was a heroine, a patriotic soldier, and a role model for my generation. But every story has a dark side, and the dark side of my story is that I became a traitor to my own country. I have to tell you my story quickly because, well, you'll find out shortly. My spy career began when some terrorists attacked my country. I was assigned to a counter-terrorism battalion, and we were fighting for our lives. Though we were a strong group, the terrorists were suicidal maniacs who had decimated our troops by just charging into our midst and detonating their explosive vests. Only a few of us survived, fighting against overwhelming odds. Then, an opportunity revealed itself. I noticed that the terrorists were hiding behind some large pipes, natural gas pipelines. As a matter of fact, I shot the biggest pipe and killed them all. I became the heroine to a grateful nation, and suddenly, people were naming their children after me. Everyone wished to be like me. Then, one day, I received a phone call from an anonymous caller who threatened to kill my family if I didn't do what he demanded. So, I met with him and his cronies. The moment I saw him, I could see that he meant business. He was a no-nonsense type of individual. Sure enough, he got straight down to business. He wanted me to tell them all our military secrets, weapons, plans, base, and camp locations, everything. If I didn't agree, they threatened to kill everyone in my family, starting with my father, who lived in another city. He said he was recording our meeting, said that if I betrayed this group, they would send the recording to my leaders. I submitted to their demands because I couldn't bear to cause my family harm. I now had to wear two faces, the heroine and the treacherous informer. I was pleasantly surprised to find that they paid me well for the information I was passing them. My own country hadn't paid me a dime for being their national heroine. So, at least I felt valued and appreciated by the other side. The utility of the information I was supplying them became evident as I watched news reports of new successful terrorist attacks on our country, military bases, camps, and armories. Naturally, our top brass knew that there must be a traitor in their midst, but they had no suspects because I was being very careful. Then, one day, as I was meeting with my terrorist contact to pass on some more information, our soldiers burst into the room and took the terrorists into custody. It turns out that my side had suspected me and had followed me there. The officer told me that I was the last person he would have ever suspected of being a traitor. I offered my hands to him to be handcuffed and taken in. I figured at least 10 years in prison, but he made no move to handcuff me. Instead, he just looked at one of his lieutenants, who then pulled out his gun, pulled back its slide, and chambered a round. It seemed that my sentence was to be executed, right here, right now.
I believe in the metaphysical world and that there are many mysteries that we don't understand yet, like souls, ghosts, and black magic. Are there really evil spirits who wish to do us harm? Well, I may have an answer for you. My name is Ralph, and I am 15 years old. My life became a journey to study the metaphysical world. My parents always told me that reading books about the supernatural world would mess with my mind, but I didn't care. My friends share my interest in the occult. I remember the first time we tried to summon a spirit. We drew a pentagram on the floor and placed black candles at the points of the star in preparation for the ceremony. After the ceremony started, we waited for a spirit to appear, but all we summoned was a small rat. Even so, we were afraid of rats, so it was still a scary experience for us, but not in the way we expected. In our second experiment, we tried to summon the soul of a girl named Mary. Although it was a fun ritual, not much happened. The power went out and we reclosed a breaker and the lights came back on. Then, we heard the voice of a small girl crying and the voice of some woman saying, "No one can get into my forbidden area." We all screamed and ran away, but then we learned later that this was just the TV that we had heard. But that doesn't mean that supernatural events never happen. Don't forget that. In our third experiment, we tried to communicate with creatures from the planet Uranus by sneaking into a clinic that belonged to a friend's father and connecting an electrocardiograph machine to a girl's hands and feet. I thought she was going to die, but she recovered. Now, you may say that I'm experiencing hallucinations and that all our failed attempts could be explained away by normal phenomena. But what I am going to tell you may make you change your mind and your notions about the afterlife. On Independence Day, we were traveling up north to visit our aunt. Along the way, we stopped at a gas station next to a gypsy camp. The gypsies were gyrating in some kind of wild dance to the rhythm of tambourines, as if they were doing some macabre ritual of black magic and voodoo. At least that's what it looked like to me. I thought it was cool and imagined myself living the life of a carefree gypsy. Among them was a woman with tattoos all over her body. As we pulled into the gas station, she was staring at me intently, and I felt strange, as if her gaze had affected me in some way. After stopping at the gas station, Dad and I got out of the car, and I was surprised when the tattooed gypsy woman approached me and presented me with a cute black cat in a small metal cage. I knew that superstitious people feared black cats and believed them to be omens of bad luck, but personally I disagreed with them. Cats are cats, regardless of the color of their fur. I thought she was trying to sell it to me and asked her how much it cost. She told me that it was a present given to me for free. I thanked her and she turned and left. Dad finished filling up the car's gas tank and we drove away. My parents were surprised when they saw that I had magically gained a black cat in a cage, so I explained what had happened with the gypsy woman. Dad didn't like the cat's black color. He said it looked so dour and gloomy. Just as Dad said that, the cat turned its head towards Dad and hissed at him, as if he took offense at the comment about his fur. When we got home, I opened the cage and let the cat out. It walked around the flat and seemed to be looking for something. Mice, probably. I made it a cozy bed from a blanket and gave it some food. We played together for a bit. Though I had thought it cute before, its movements and features started to strike me as predatory or hostile in some way. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I shrugged it off, thinking that we'll get used to each other in a few days. Later, I began noticing that it had a quirky knack for disappearing and reappearing, as if by magic. At times, I would hear the cat meow, as if it were glaring at something. But when I would try to see what it was looking at, there was nothing there. One evening, after visiting a friend, I went home and wanted to get some sleep. Normally, the cat would sleep beside me, but on this particular day, I couldn't find it anywhere. Suddenly, the power and lights went out, and all I could see was darkness. I heard something moving along the wall. I scrabbled around and found a flashlight and shined around. There was the cat. Its reflective eyes shined white, and its canine teeth loomed large like tiger fangs. Big and conspicuous, and ready to bite into something juicy. It was glaring at me as if I were that juicy something, but I yelled at it, and it retreated. My parents had come to see what was going on, so I pointed at Sparky. I had named the cat Sparky, and told them that Sparky seemed like he wanted to attack me. But they paid me no heed. Later that night, I was trying to go to sleep when I suddenly noticed that Sparky was lying right next to me. I broke out in a cold sweat. When I told my parents about Sparky's magical appearance at my bedside, they told me that I was just sleep deprived and that I would feel better after getting some sleep. I finally got to sleep and dreamed that I was in a dark house shining a flashlight around and that Sparky was getting ready to attack me again. I woke up with a start and found Sparky sleeping next to me. I told Mom about my nightmare, but she brushed it off as a bad dream or indigestion from dinner. Then one day, my parents had to visit one of our relatives, and so left me home alone with Sparky. I was really nervous. I tried to find Sparky, intending to return it to that darn gypsy woman, but it pulled its disappearing act again and couldn't be found. That night, my parents were outside when the lights went out again. Again, I heard a sound. Shined the light, saw Sparky with the white eyes and large fangs glaring at me as if ready to pounce on me and attack. Deja vu. I must have fainted because later I woke up to find my parents standing beside me, shaking me to wake me up. They looked worried. I told them about Sparky in the dark, ready to attack again. I asked where Sparky was, but they didn't know. We searched for it everywhere, but couldn't find it. After that day, I began feeling better. Had I been dreaming? Had I been hallucinating? Was it just my imagination? Was Mom right about my books on the supernatural messing with my mind? Sitting, I sighed and dropped my hand to my side. It fell upon something warm and fuzzy. Sparky was there.
Ever since I was a child, I adored horror movies. Scary stories, old legends and myths. While most kids were into singers and actors and movie posters, I loved vampires, the one-eyed Cyclops, everything related to horror and gore. Monster movies, thrillers, the supernatural, the mysterious, and the unexplained. Because these things only happened in movies. Or so I thought. But what if they were to happen in real life? Let me tell you a story where something like this happened in real life. My name is Marlene, and I'm 15 years old. Like I said, unlike the other kids, I loved horror movies, zombies, vampires, and ghosts. The only one who shared my tastes was my brother Stan, an oddly stylish guy with a strange character. Nevertheless, I liked him. There are a lot of scary monsters, of course, but to me, the werewolf was the scariest of them all. A werewolf is an ordinary person who has been bitten by a werewolf, which in turn causes him to become one too. A werewolf looks like you and me, most of the time, but around the time of the full moon, that cursed person will transform into a monster, with a taste, or should I say thirst, for human blood. My parents had gone to visit some relatives and stay with them for Christmas holidays, but I stayed home because I wanted to spend that time with my friends. Stan stayed home with me for similar reasons. One night, he came home looking tired, and his hand was bleeding. When I asked him what had happened, he said that some wild dog had attacked him and bit him. I was worried that it might get infected without Mom here to cleanse and bandage it, but he assured me that he was okay. I cleaned it the best I could and put a light bandage around it. The next day was a cold day, but we played outside and had fun together with our friends. At the end of the day, Stan said that he was feeling tired and went straight to his room without saying another word. When I went inside, I could hear him crying in his room, so I went in and asked him if he was okay. Again, he said that he was fine, but I was thinking that maybe the bite on his hand wasn't from a dog, but from some rabid animal. That would have been really bad. Or maybe from a werewolf. That would be even worse. I began to worry and started watching him more closely, just to make sure he was okay. I noticed that he began hiding his hand in his jacket pockets, wearing sunglasses at night, and was always tired. I could tell that something wasn't right. Then, one night, I heard strange sounds coming from his room, so I hurried to him. "Stan, please tell me what's going on. Tell me the truth. What is wrong with you?" I asked. And he said, "Really, I'm okay. I'm just hungry. Do we have any meat?" Meat, I thought, as in bloody meat. Suddenly my imagination started running wild, and I began thinking to myself, oh my God, what if Stan was bitten by a werewolf? I checked the almanac and determined that the full moon was only 3 days away. I was scared out of my mind. What will happen if he changes when I'm here home alone? I felt like I was doomed to be killed by my own brother. I knew that the only way to kill a werewolf was with a silver bullet, or a silver dagger. But, 1, where could I find one of those? And 2, how could I kill my own brother? I must be losing my mind. My parents wouldn't be back for a week. Time passed, and the day of the full moon arrived. I knew I would have to face the person I loved the most in the world besides my parents, and either I would kill him, or he would kill me. It's a lose-lose situation. When my brother came home, he looked so strange. His eyes were darting around like a wolf, and he even smelled like one too. I pretended to be strong, but inside I was trembling, fearful of what this night might bring. I locked myself in my bedroom and waited for this night to pass quickly. I hoped. Then I heard Stan's door open, and I heard his light footsteps coming closer to my door. He knocked and asked if he could come in. Hesitantly, I opened the door. "Hi, Stan. Is there something you need?" I asked, and he said, "I'm so tired." Then I saw his skin turning a grayish color. He was clutching his stomach. The transformation was about to begin. He made a sound like a snarl. Saliva was drooling from his mouth. Fortunately, I was holding a silver kitchen knife. Thank God Mom had some real silverware. She had gotten out for the holiday dinner. I had gone by the church that day and asked the priest to bless a jar of water I brought with me, and I had dipped my silver knife in that blessed holy water just before I had opened the door to confront Stan. I was ready to pounce before he could. "Forgive me, dear brother," I said. Then I pulled the knife back and got ready to thrust it forward to stab him in the stomach. At that instant, Dad suddenly came in through the front door and saw us, saw me with a knife in my hand, ready to run Stan through with it. "Marlene, what are you doing?" he asked. Staring at the knife in my hand, I shouted, "Dad, run! Stan is changing into a werewolf!" Then Stan unexpectedly fell down unconscious, looking very much human. Dad ran over to him and felt his forehead. "He has a fever," he said. "Look at his hand, Dad. He's been bitten by a werewolf," I cried. Dad looked at me as if I was crazy and said, "Nonsense, Marlene. It's just a dog bite." We took Stan to a doctor, who examined him and took some blood samples. He did indeed have rabies, also known as hydrophobia, I learned. I laughed, but then I told myself that this wasn't really funny. I almost convinced myself that my brother was a werewolf. If Dad had come a few seconds later, Stan might very well be dead by now. I was seconds away from murdering my own brother due to a runaway imagination. It's been 2 weeks now, and Stan has finished the shot treatment. He's getting better quickly. What about me, you ask? Well, I've stopped watching horror movies forever. Well, at least till next month.